Tom Bower has never been afraid to go where the truth hides. For years, the royal biographer has peeled back the layers of palace life. But nothing he's uncovered compares to what he found about Doria Ragland, Meghan Markle's mother, and her hidden role in Prince Harry's spiral into drugs. Behind the polished Netflix smiles and carefully crafted speeches, there's another story, one that smells of smoke, money, and manipulation. According to Bower's findings, Doria's influence in Harry's life wasn't just gentle guidance. It was something darker, quiet, deliberate, and dangerously familiar. He claimed that Doria's past wasn't as spotless as her new California image. There were whispers of drugs, rumors of old habits, and a connection that might explain why Harry's so-called healing always seemed clouded in fog. Because as Harry told the world he was finally free, his own words revealed the opposite. Confessions of psychedelic mushrooms, nights spent rolling joints, and a peace that never truly came. So when Bower's revelation linked Doria's past to Harry's present, everything changed. It painted a picture not of a happy prince, but of a man caught between two powerful women, one who shaped his pain and one who knew exactly how to use it. And that's where our story begins. The man who said he'd never been happier and the secret force that may have kept him lost all along. To understand this story, let's go back to the very beginning, when Prince Harry told the world he had never been happier. He said leaving the royal family had freed him, that life in California was peaceful, balanced, and full of healing. But when you look closely, that happiness begins to crumble. His words spoke of freedom, but his eyes told another story, a man restless, heavy, and strangely disconnected. And as time went on, Harry's own confessions began to tell the truth he tried so hard to hide. Because behind the polished smiles and podcast interviews, there was a growing shadow. Harry wasn't just finding himself. He was losing himself in substances, confusion, and the very world he thought would heal him. And then came his shocking admission: psychedelic mushrooms. Not whispered by tabloids or internet sleuths, but straight from Harry's own mouth. He said he experimented with them, that they helped him see things differently. But this wasn't the calm self-discovery story he tried to sell. It was the first sign that the man once called the party prince hadn't left those habits behind. He'd simply changed the setting. It started as a healing journey. But soon, Harry was describing hallucinogenic trips, mushroom experiences, and marijuana sessions as if they were part of therapy. He claimed they were medicinal, a spiritual escape from pain. But as many noticed, the line between therapy and dependency is thin. When Harry talked about rolling joints late at night while Meghan slept not at a wild club, but in Tyler Perry's luxury home, people began to wonder what exactly was going on behind closed doors. He wasn't a teenager anymore. He was a father. And yet, his confession sounded less like a man moving on and more like a in private. Harry once mentioned sitting outside rolling joints while Meghan slept inside. And the question that still echoes today: where did those joints come from? Who brought them in? Who allowed it? Or perhaps encouraged it while children were sleeping nearby? Some began to wonder if Doria's role wasn't just that of a mother-in-law, but something darker, a handler, a keeper, someone who understood that keeping Harry calm, dazed, and detached meant keeping him controllable. Because when a man can't see clearly, he can't fight clearly. And when a man is too fogged to think straight, someone else gets to write his story. And that's exactly where this story turns from drugs and habits to manipulation and control. Because behind every high moment Harry confessed, there may have been a guiding hand making sure he stayed just lost enough to never find his way home again. Every story has a background character, the one who never speaks too loudly, never draws too much attention, yet somehow every major decision seems to circle back to them. For Harry and Meghan, that person was Doria Ragland. While Meghan became the face of rebellion and Harry the voice of pain, Doria was the quiet pulse behind it all, calm, discreet, and completely underestimated. Tom Bower, who spent years digging through the cracks of royal life, once claimed that Doria had a history deeply connected to drugs. According to his investigation, she wasn't just a witness to that world. She was part of it. And if that claim holds even a sliver of truth, it changes everything. Because that means when Harry spoke of psychedelic healing and late-night joints at Tyler Perry's mansion, the influence might not have been just curiosity. It might have been conditioning, a continuation of patterns Doria herself knew too well. She had seen what drugs could do, how they could calm, control, and even silence. And maybe, just maybe, she realized that Harry's healing could be turned into something useful. A man numbed is a man easier to manage. It's no coincidence that Doria stepped into the spotlight right when the Sussexes' world started spinning out of control. Not before, not after, but right then. The yoga mat, the soft smile, the spiritual words, they were all part of the act. In a house where tension brewed like thunder, Doria didn't yell, she whispered. And that whisper, as Tom Bower hinted, may have been the one guiding Harry's everyday decisions. But whispers can't stay secrets forever. As Harry's confessions about drugs became public through his memoir, questions began to stir. Behind closed doors, rumors swirled that Child Protective Services had been alerted not by tabloids, but by officials disturbed by what was described in his own book. Harry admitted to using substances while living with his young children. To most people, and in that quiet shift, she became the new monarch of his life, not with a crown, but with calm words, hidden ledgers, and the power to say yes or no. Then came the rumor no one wanted to believe, that Child Protective Services had paid a visit to the Sussex home. It wasn't a tabloid leak. It wasn't gossip. It was allegedly a direct consequence of Harry's own words. His memoir described drug use, marijuana, mushrooms, all while raising two small children. That alone was enough to raise alarms. But the real shock wasn't that officials came. It was who they may have come because of. Because according to some whispers, it wasn't critics or YouTubers who made that call. It was from within the family. The very people who stood beside Harry in every photo. Meghan and Doria may have turned him in under the guise of concern. Imagine that. The same women who had encouraged his so-called healing journey suddenly painting him as unstable, unfit, and unsafe around his own children. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. By letting Harry take the fall, they could protect the image, the brand, and most importantly, the money. Because when things go wrong in Hollywood, someone always has to be the villain. And Harry, high, confused, and easy to blame, fit the role perfectly. Not long after that, Doria began to fade from public view. No more constant appearances, no more motherly guidance. She'd done her part. Now she was retreating. Those who once saw her as the calm eye of the storm started to notice the pattern. Doria appeared only when Harry's life spun out of control and disappeared once the chaos had served its purpose. Tom Bower's description of her as a woman of control suddenly made sense. She wasn't emotional. She was efficient. When Harry had been safely detached from the royal family, from his brother, from the stability he once knew, her job was done. The puppet had been cut loose. The fog she'd helped build around him became his permanent state. Now when he speaks, the conviction is gone. The once fiery rebel prince sounds lost, uncertain, and desperate for approval even from those who orchestrated his fall. And that's where this story ends, not with a royal redemption, but with a tragic reflection. The man who said he'd never been happier now looks like someone who's forgotten what happiness even means. The freedom he thought he won became another kind of cage built not by the crown, but by those closest to him. If Tom Bower's claims are true, then Doria Ragland's influence wasn't just motherly advice. It was mastery, a quiet domination masked as guidance. She became the architect of Harry's confusion, the keeper of his secrets, and the hidden hand behind every joint rolled and every bridge burned. Meghan, ever the strategist, stood beside her, ensuring the story always stayed one step ahead of the truth. Together, they built the illusion of love, of progress, of freedom, all while Harry slipped further into dependency and delusion. In the end, when the smoke clears, one question remains. Was Doria ever helping Harry heal? Or was she making sure he never recovered at all? Because when the truth finally surfaces and the fog lifts, the world may not just see a prince who lost his way. They might see the quiet woman who led him there.